Good morning, everyone. It's great to see a full house here. As I was talking to Tamara before we started, I said that this is a wonderful opportunity for us to tell you our own story here in Prince George's County, the things that are going on, what we have planned, and how we've done it, and give you an opportunity to partner with us to help us to be reach our full potential, which is the best jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. As the county executive said, and I've known him 30-something years now, and what he has brought to Prince George's County, besides a big smile and a lot of people who liked him, is he's brought a conviction about what he thinks needs to be done here in order for us to reach our potential. We talk about public safety, we talk about economic development, and we talk about education all the time, every day. And when the man makes up his mind that he wants us to do something, we can try to talk him out of it and say now's not the right time to do it. But he has a keen sense of knowing when the time is right to do something. And then what he's also done is hired a bunch of people who know how to get things done. And they're all around the room here today. I get the pleasure of standing up here and being their mouthpiece. So let me tell you about T&I. I've had the pleasure of explaining this many times. I'll try to give you a low-fat version here and follow Mr. Baker and stay on time. But as Mr. Baker said, the T&I was born from our summer crime initiative that was put in place when we had a spike of homicides in January of 2011. Mr. Baker got together with our law enforcement officials and the police chief in particular and decided that the way to make sure that we went into the warmer months when we were running behind the bus already and we had to play catch up was to target our resources into the areas that are in most need. As he said, we got great results. We picked 5 areas for that particular initiative. And the thing that he didn't mention was we didn't just focus on crime, because crime has root causes. With every crime, you have a suspect, you have a victim, and you have a location. The police are great at dealing with suspects, but they are not experts at dealing with locations nor potential victims. So we had to bring together the rest of the government and kind of wrap it around the police department and take our social services, health departments, family services, our housing department, our Department of Environmental Resources, which is a department that handles blight and vacant and abandoned homes, our Department of Public Works and Transportation, and also some agencies that are not under the control of the county executive. As he mentioned, the sheriff, who's an elected official, the state's attorney, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, and the schools as well. And we wrapped ourselves around the police department to deal with some of the root causes of the crime. The results were that in 3 of the 5 areas, the crime dropped by over 20%, and in 2 of the areas, it dropped by over 10%. And as he said, we broke a record last year in 2012, and we reduced our homicides by 33%. And the Transforming Neighborhoods Initiative was a big part of that, but it also has helped us in a number of other areas as well. As you see here, there are 6 areas that we're talking about. We addressed the key issues that we've talked about, but we also talked about partnering with state officials, other areas of the government, and the philanthropic community, the nonprofit community, faith-based community. And what's important is that you have to understand what it is that we're doing in order for you to take the resources that you have, what you have access to, the ideas that you have, and help us to figure out ways to improve what it is that we're doing here. What Mr. Baker has told us forever is that we wants to institutionalize T&I and this form of governing so that it lasts beyond this administration. And this form of governing is really to not operate in silos, to not operate as one department, but to operate across the government, as we've said, wrapping ourselves around problems and solving those problems by coordinating our resources. And in doing that, in the 6 areas, what we did was we assigned a Deputy Chief Administrative Officer or Assistant Deputy Chief Administrative Officer to each of the 6 areas. And that was one of the things that really made it different, because it was a program that's coming from the highest levels of government. It came straight from the county executive. There are other jurisdictions. In Philadelphia, they had a program called the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative, and it came out of the housing department. And what happens is, after a while, it begins to kind of lose its juice and get lost in the sauce. But by having it with the senior levels in government, it stayed on everybody's mind. The other thing that we did that was different was that we assigned fixed teams in each one of these 6 areas. So each of the areas has a team of somewhere between 14 and 17 people, and they come from each of the different departments that I've mentioned. So we have somebody from the police department, the fire department, Homeland Security, housing, family services, social services, and so on and so forth. Our Economic Development Corporation, we have them all on the team. They actually have their meetings in the T&I areas, at community centers in the T&I areas. We actually have one of our Deputy Chief Administrative Officers, who's not here this morning, Barry Stanton, because he actually had a T&I meeting in his area down in Glass Manor, Oxon Hill. And while he was going to attend this meeting, our communications people invited the press to come to that particular meeting, so we thought that he should be there if the press was going to be there. We can go to the next slide. On the left-hand side, we talked about the Baker administration vision, mission, and principles. And we developed those things. They're in the handout that you have, so I won't go over them word for word. But out of that, we also came up with 7 goal areas. And these are the areas that you see on the left. Of course, it mentions the economy, education, safe neighborhoods, healthcare, human services, which we'll talk about more in a few minutes, and the environment, and then high-performance government operations. As our T&I teams went out into the community to identify 2 things. They identified what was needed in the community just by going around, driving all over the community, identifying the vacant homes, the places where the grass needed to be cut, the sneakers over the wires, loitering, graffiti, potholes, other cosmetic changes that we could make to things that you could actually see. As they identified that, they came up with the reality that's on the right side there, what was really going on in the communities and what was really needed. So those are the 8 things that we decided that we needed. Next slide, please. We can skip to the next one. We'll come back to that. So in order to choose the 6 areas, Mr. Baker mentioned that we got a recommendation from the police department. They recommended the 5 areas that they had focused on for the Summer Crime Initiative, but in addition to that, they added a 6th area, the Kentland Palmer Park area. Separate from that, and this is what we talk about, a different way of governing, we wanted to use the data. One of our principles is to make evidence-based decisions. So we said, okay, well, that's what the law enforcement people say. What about the other data and statistics in the county? So we looked across these 9 areas. Now, we picked these 9 areas not because they were necessarily the best indicators, because you don't see anything that's directly health-related there, but we couldn't get a hold of that data in a digital format. We could get this data, and we could get it by census-designated place, so we could actually put it on a map. The violent crime, property crime is something we already had, and then we went through the other 7 things as well. And these are all indicators of things that aren't the best. And as Mr. Baker said, we can go to the next slide, which is the map. Most of these areas bordered the district. So what we did was we took those 9 data points and we computed an average across the county. And when an area deviated the most negatively from that average, we turned it red. The next worst was orange, the next was yellow, and the next was green. It's kind of hard to see, but down in the bottom here is an example of where you can see these blue or purple stripes. Those are the areas that the police department picked using their methodology of picking it. So not by coincidence, you'll see that of the 6 areas that the data showed us and that the police picked, there was an intersection. 3 of those areas, Glass Manor, Oxon Hill, Suitland, and Kentland Palmer Park up there in the central part of the county, they were all red according to the data. Then we had one area that was orange, and that's the Hillcrest Heights area right there above the Glass Manor area. And again, the three areas along the south, Glass Manor, Hillcrest Heights, and Suitland, all border Ward 7 and Ward 8 in Washington, D.C. Now, that's no coincidence because as Rome has grown, they had a real important tool in their tool chest, and that was that they owned a lot of their public housing. So what they did was they tore it down. And as they tore it down, the residents came with portable Section 8 vouchers, and they came into Prince George's County. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear. That's not a bad thing. Section 8 housing is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But too much of any one thing in one place is not a good thing. And I didn't bring this particular chart, but we have another chart that looks just like this, but it shows the concentrations of Section 8 housing. And if we were to take that and overlay that here, you would see that those concentrations are primarily in the red areas, and that was one of the 9 data points that we used to pick the 9 areas. So this is our map. When we talk about economic development and we talk about bordering Washington, D.C., we have some of the most affordable land in the region. It's hard to build anything in D.C., but you can build a lot of stuff on the 500 acres that we have, 500 square miles, that we have here in Prince George's County. We have 26 million square feet of office space, 52 million square feet of flex space, and about 11 million of industrial space. And we have a pretty high vacancy rate here in the county, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. There was some statistics that you have in your package. 60%, as Mr. Baker said, of our residents travel outside of the county to go to work. About 70% of our real estate tax base is residential, and about 30% of it is commercial. So we've largely been a bedroom community. The people come here to sleep, and they go outside of the county for everything else. We have 32,000 Marylanders that leave Maryland to be admitted in the hospital every year. 25,000 of those 32 come out of Prince George's County, and they predominantly go to the Washington Hospital Center. So our challenge as we try to grow our tax base so that we can reinvest in education, public safety, and economic development is to keep what's leaving the county in the county. Mr. Baker mentioned our metro stations, which are the large blue circles. So you have 15 stations up here, and 13 of them touch a red or an orange area. So that makes it clear that when we sort of advertise ourselves to the development community, and we want to, and to the federal government, to have them locate the FBI at Greenbelt, or to bring another federal facility to Branch Avenue, or talk to the University of Maryland Medical System about the Largo Town Center metro station, we have to talk about improving those neighborhoods. And that's what the TNI has done. I hesitate to do this because every time I do it, something happens. But we're down double digits again so far this year in homicides. We'll never get it as low as we got it last year, because once you get it that low, it's hard to make additional large moves downward. But so far, we're doing great, and we're ahead of last year's pace. We're down 15% in violent crime in the county and 12% overall. Last year, we were down 9% violent and 7% overall, so we're doing a lot better than we did last year. How are we doing that? We're doing that because we're operating collaboratively. We're wrapping our county services around our public safety agencies. We try to get our department heads to understand that when it comes to reputation, if you could jump back to the wheels for a second. So what you have here is really what we face with respect to perception and reputation here in the county. And I'll go through this pretty fast, but to your far right is where we have resources and funding that we get from our taxpayers, the federal government, not just money, but also partnerships, incentive programs and the like. And you see the arrow comes across the top. We invest that in programs and initiatives. And then we come into the middle, those programs and initiatives we combine with high performance government, our new Department of Permitting, Inspections and Enforcement, our county stat program, and all the things that are really good government allow us to operate more efficiently target our limited resources so that we're doing the same thing in the same place. You don't want to fix the streets in the northern part of the county, work on the crime in the southern part of the county, and improve the schools in the central part of the county. You have to do all of those things in the same place at the same time, and you can't do it everywhere at the same time, so you have to pick your spots. So we have the high-performance government, but then we have down here to your lower left, we have the perception issue about Prince George's County, and we have to deal with the perception, but we also have to make real improvements in our county services and in our conditions in our neighborhoods. That's why we talk about crime reduction, safer neighborhoods, the better schools, health status, and the last thing there is positive press. Getting the press to talk positively about Prince George's County begins to change the perception of how people see this county, the assets that we have available, and why it would be good to live in a place that's more affordable and be able to ride the metro station, ride the metro into Washington, D.C. In order to spend money and produce economic activity, which leads us to the bottom middle, asset creation. And so we talk about our regional medical facility that if you want to take a look right up the street at the Capitol Center Boulevard, that's where it will be, a $650 million regional facility that will be a trauma center, and it will provide high-end tertiary care the way that Johns Hopkins Hospital does or the University of Maryland Medical Center in Baltimore. We also have a resort casino coming to the southern part of the county, which will generate lots of economic development. That's something the district can't do, but it works together with what they have in the district to allow people another place to come spend money and produce economic activity. We have our gateway corridors in and out of the district. We talk about transit-oriented development all the time, and I'll begin to close out here before they start giving me the cut sign. And this is something we've talked about a lot recently. The thing that you'll notice in the district is that they've created places. They've created U Street. They've created 14th Street. When the county executive and I were at Howard University, and some of you were there in 1980, there were prostitutes on 14th Street. If you go to 14th Street now between you and the Circle, it looks like Georgetown, okay? And it's a great thing. But what they've done is they've created places. We can't create the same kind of places that they have in the district, but we can create National Harbor, or we can create a Department of Housing and Community Development coming to New Carrollton to go with what's already there. But the thing that's important about the placemaking is we've got to get three things to happen at one time. We've got to get retail, we've got to get office, and we've got to get residential all in one place. The best chance that we have to do this, and this frankly is why the committee supported by the county executive chose the Largo Town Center Metro Station, is because going to Landover Mall, while it's a great site and we're going to develop it, there's nothing there right now. Okay, but what we have over here at Largo Town Center is we have plenty of residential. We have retail, not necessarily the kind of retail we want, but in order to bring the kind of retail we want, we have to bring office. And it's tough for us to bring office to Prince George's County, but you'll have medical office buildings that will follow the regional medical center, and it'll give us the best place to create a transit-oriented destination where we can prove to the region that Prince George's County is a place that can create places, a place where people can move and put their kids in great schools, a place where they can be safe, and a place where they can shop. We've got the Tanger outlets coming on Black Friday. It has retailers, the best retailers that have ever come to Prince George's County will be at the Tanger outlets. I won't start calling off names, but they're places that right now you go to Pentagon City for, or you go to Annapolis Mall for, and it will be a great example of what we can do here in this county when we work together and we do the things that are necessary to improve things. So as I close out, I want to jump to the circles. Not those circles, but those circles.
Do you want to introduce the team leaders?
Good idea. So we do have our five of our six team leaders here. I asked them to stand as I call their name. David Iannucci is the team leader for our East Riverdale Bladensburg area. Barry Stanton is not here. He's down in Glass Manor, Oxon Hill, with the Gazette and his T&I team. We have Tom Himmler in the back, who is Hillcrest Heights, Marlow Heights. We have Carla Reed in the middle there, Kentland Palmer Park. Betty Hager Francis in the back is Langley Park, and we have Aubrey Thaggart in the middle here, who's in charge of Suitland Coral Hills. So these are the people that are out there making sure that things happen in this area. Now I'll jump to the circles. So as I close out, what we did when we went into the communities was we asked them what they need, because the last thing you want to do when you go into a community is tell them what they need. But at the same time, we made a list of what we thought they needed. And we also made a list of those services that we could deliver immediately, because you get all this press about something, you got to make it work early or you lose the community. And if you don't have the community helping you, picking up the phone when there's a vacant home or there's some other kind of trouble in the neighborhood, you'll never make the kind of progress we want. So we looked at the services we could deliver now on the left side, and along the bottom axis we looked at what it was the community said they needed. And the first priority was where you get that intersection of a high ability to deliver and a high need in the community. Those are the things we focused on. They were the things that you could see. Along with the public safety issues, but we've torn down vacant homes, we cut grass, we filled potholes, we fixed areas where people were getting hit by cars. And then we had a priority 2 area, which was, again, an intersection there between what we can deliver and what we need. This third circle, though, is where we're at right now. There are certain things that we don't do well because we're government, and that's where we need the help of partners at the state level, but their government as well. But there are things that nonprofits can do very, very well that we can't. We need the philanthropic community to invest in the county and to give us ideas and help us to raise the profile in the county. We need the business community, because we're not hiring that many people because our property values are way down and we don't have the money to really go through job creation. So we need, as the economy recovers, we need businesses to help us with jobs. And then we had 2 other circles up here, which I won't spend as much time on, but in areas where we had a low need and a low capacity to deliver, those are areas that we just don't, need to work there. And then you had the area where we have a high ability to deliver it, but it's not needed, and so you just stop investing your money there. So that's an overview of the T&I program. I think you'll hear more about it as we go through the day. You can certainly pull me to the side to ask any questions that you have. But that is how we're focusing the resources in this government, and not just improving in those 6 areas, but also as we learn things in those 6 areas about how to be more efficient, we're doing the same things in the rest of the county as well, and therefore the rising tide is lifting all the ships. So, questions? I couldn't have answered all of them. Any? Okay, I think you all are just trying to keep us on time, but that helps. So I think we're going to go to breakout sessions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.